Protesters in Oregon are spending day 2 of their occupation of a government building there. The group taking over a federal government building at a national wildlife refuge, all in support of 2 ranchers who face extended prison time for having set fires on federal land. Anita Vogel has more live from our Los Angeles bureau. Hi, Anita.
Well, hi there, Eric. You know, this started out as a peaceful protest in the small town of Burns, Oregon, with about 300 protesters. But just this afternoon, the sheriff of Harney County put out a statement saying he believes that other militia types coming into the area had alternative motives to try and overthrow the county and federal government in hopes of sparking a national movement. Now, initially, the protesters were upset over a federal court order to send 2 local ranchers back to prison to serve the remainder of a 5-year sentence. Dwight Hammond and his son Stephen were charged in 2012 with arson related to 2 fires they set on federal land they were using for cattle grazing back in 2001. They claimed they set the fires for fire prevention, but prosecutors said they were trying to cover up an alleged deer poaching operation and in the process ended up scorching acres and acres of federal land. The Hammonds say they feel a 5-year prison sentence is a bit harsh, but they appreciate the support from the community.
Seems like a bit of an overkill. It isn't my decision, obviously. It's a sentence. Think that there's this many people showing up.
They chose not to go to prison because they wanted to stand up for their rights. We would be right there by their side.
Late Saturday, the protest took on an unusual turn when Ammon Bundy of the notorious Bundy family ranch from Nevada joined in. You may remember his father, Cliven Bundy, who was very outspoken during his own dispute with the Bureau of Land Management over grazing fines a few years back. Well, his son Ammon put out a call to action on Facebook for armed militia members around the nation to head up to Burns to support the Hammond family. And the next thing you know, some of them took over the Militia Wildlife Refuge building about 30 miles away, and they say they'll stay there as long as they need to.
It is the people's facility, owned by the people, and it has been provided for us to be able to come together and unite in making a hard stand against this overreach, this taking of the people's land and resources.
But a lawyer for the Hammond family says they don't want the Bundys' help. They can speak for themselves. And yes, they have a beef with the federal government. But as far as we know, they plan to turn themselves in Monday morning and serve the rest of their sentence. Eric, back to you.
All right, Anita, thanks so much. Arthel?
Yeah, Eric, there are so many complicated legal issues here, so we're going to sort them all out with our legal panel. Misty Maris, a trial attorney, and Robert Schalk is a defense attorney and a former prosecutor. Good to see both of you. Robert, I'll start with you on this. Let's talk about those protests. Are they legal?
The protest itself that led to the march over the weekend were legal. But now that you're talking about the Bundys and these militia, armed militia, they won't say what kind of weapons they have, but admitting that they have weapons in a government building where they've gone in there, they broke in because they didn't have keys, and now they're staying there. So they're facing the prospect of a 2B2.3 federal trespass or burglary violation. And if you take it further, if they find out that they have weapons there, you're talking about increasing their possible sentencing if they are eventually charged. And I think if they don't leave peacefully, that the government should pursue charges against them.
And how high might the sentencing go?
Well, the sentencing guidelines. Right, the sentencing guidelines, depending on, in the federal system, depend on someone's criminal history, the type of offense that they're charged with, whether they had a weapon. So you're talking years in prison, which could be the possible sentence for these people.
Misty?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I think I'm going to take it a step further and say you have this militia that's calling people with arms, basically threatening the police, threatening government agencies that are coming in to break them, take them out of there when they're trespassing. I think we could even be seeing a domestic terrorism type charge come our way if this erupts in violence. Absolutely.
And how serious is that charge?
That is a very serious charge. That could be federal sentencing, and which would increase these sentences significantly.
So what Misty is talking about, as you know, that Ammon Bundy, he posted on his Facebook, he says, all patriots, it's time to stand up, not stand down. We need your help. Come prepared.
I have no problem with a call to action if you feel as if someone's constitutional rights are being infringed upon, these people in Oregon. Here's the problem. The people in Oregon aren't the ones who are asking for the call. It's this individual from Nevada that has a beef with the federal government. If he believes, or the people of Oregon believe, that the government is taking land that doesn't belong to them, is infringing on their rights with regards to them being ranchers, is unlawfully sentencing the Hammonds, which is the case that was mentioned in the story.
Right.
There are lawyers, there are ways in which you can file lawsuits against the government to get your property back, to say my rights are being violated. To call to action over the internet individuals with weapons to come to a state and overtake a building is not the right way to go about doing it.
And meantime, Misty, to let you jump in there, but meantime, as you know, these Ammon and his gang, they're saying, and by the way, we are going to remain peaceful, but if they come at us, we will defend ourselves.
Absolutely. They've come out and said it. They said we have people that are willing to die and people that will use violence if the police come in. And in this situation, the police have no choice but to come in. They're illegally trespassing. And that's why this is not a peaceful protest like the ones that are valid and great and part of our democratic system. This is not peaceful. This is calling to action weapons and violence against officials.
So, Robert, I mean, again, what happens if it comes to this, where those protesters, the militia, they're armed, and if the police come after them, they say, well, they're going to, act in self-defense. Would that be considered self-defense?
No, in my opinion, because they're going to be given the opportunity to peacefully leave or to work out some sort of arrangement where they vacate the premises and they're allowed to protest elsewhere, where it's not in their First Amendment right to assembly, where they can go and have their protest. But to do so where you're infringing on the opportunity for this government building to do its job every single day, for people to come to work and operate, if they start violence with the police, the charges against them are only going to be ratcheted up. And you're talking about federal domestic terrorism charges can carry life in prison or the death penalty.
And you can't be under the veil of protest and break the law.
Misty Maris, Robert Schalk, good to see both of you. Thank you so much.
Thanks,